Hey there, this is Malorian, and this is Jank Tank, and with me as always is...
Tim Man XL here.
So we didn't put out the video yesterday saying give us questions, and that's partly just because I was dumb and forgot, but we have a few other things we want to talk about. But before we get to those, Tin Man, how's your week been? 1 second.
I had a mouthful of water. All right, so my week, I went and did something that I've been putting off for 2.5 years now. I went and built my storm wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I took him for a test spin. And the list wasn't a good one to support him, but I took him for a test spin.
So I saw from the picture what you're running it with E. Haley. You had Storm Guard, and was it Blazers on the right? I'm trying to remember the picture you posted up.
Those were just your good old-fashioned Arcane Tempest gun mages with his dudeness.
All right.
I also had a Journeyman Warcaster. I realized it would have been a much better list if instead of Storm Guard, I had Sword Knights with the UA, and that would have given me points left over to squeeze in Rupert Corvolo to help support the Sword Knights. So you'd have had the Journeyman Warcaster putting Arcane Shield on the Sword Knights, and then Rupert Corvolo buffing the Sword Knights even more. Like, like making them fearless and tough, or giving them +1 defense and terror.
So in the game, was the storm wall doing all he was supposed to be, shooting things down and covering fire and all that good stuff?
Stormwall walked 9 inches up on a hill. Stormwall shot at some things, and then the things Stormwall was shooting at charged Stormwall and killed him.
Bronze black?
Well, on one end you had the Titan Sentry, who was sitting in smoke, had some other buffs on him, so it's like statistically it couldn't hit him. So on the other flank, well, I was also worried about the Gators. So on average rolls, I could get really hurt by the Sentry, who I know he can get over to me, but he shouldn't completely destroy the Storm Wall. The other flank, I was more worried about the Gators because then the Gators are going to finish him off, so I had to pop a few Gators. But a couple of lucky tough rolls on one of the Gators because they had the Taskmaster there, and I'm just like, it was just getting these weak damage rolls, or I was killing them and then they're making their tough rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Taskmaster had no sleeping on the job, so when they made their tough rolls, they remained standing.
So did you get much from E. Haley's feet? Like did you get to pop feet and then go and crush an elephant? Or I guess you died, but did you just not pop the feet soon enough, do you feel? Or
well, Haley was kind of hung back, so nothing was really in their control area to make that effective. On turn 2, I was able to get her up and pop her feet. But Stormwall was already gone. I did put up a pretty good fight, but it was still a bad matchup, and there was an issue of my friend knowing what I was playing with beforehand and putting something on the table with camera.
Oh, it's one of those things.
So it's just like, oh, he knew I was gonna have this, me taking this Jack for a test spin because I just put it together. I texted him a picture going, hey, I put this together. So he knew what was up. So of course he put that down on the table.
Mm-hmm. What a nice guy. But how was it to put together the storm wall? I mean, I know when I first opened mine, it was like, wow, there's a lot of different parts, not what I'm used to. But how was it putting yours together?
Well, putting mine together, it was just putting them together. The pieces fit together so well, I didn't have to pen anything, which is kind of rare. Normally, there are models I have where every single piece is pinned to it. Mm-hmm. But all I had to do is just take an X-Acto knife or a pocket knife or what have you, score the connection, and then put the two together. And I just took, start putting them together like last Saturday night, and then I just did a little bit of work each night. Saturday, Sunday, Monday I was expecting to finish them, but didn't. Tuesday I did finish them. Stayed up a little later than I wanted to, but I finished them, and then the next day fit them into a case and took them down to the game store.
Nice. Yeah, I know. Like between the different colossals I only have the Stormwall and I have the Galleon. The Galleon always breaks all the time because it's always these kind of like flat things. But the Stormwall, those arms are a lot better because they're a lot more of a ball socket, so they never break. I find the only thing that breaks on my Stormwall is the guns, like the big guns at the top. I'm always like reaching for something in the front, and I clip one of those guns and snap it off. But they fix easy.
That's why I didn't pin it. So when it broke off, it would just break.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I won't bust out the glue, put it back on.
So looking ahead to Stormwall game number 2, do you have like a new idea? Like maybe this caster, maybe this list, or?
I might, because I've been trying to play with E. Haley more, but my first instinct was, well, let me pair him up with Darius, because then if it gets beat down, Darius can get in there and fix him.
Mm-hmm.
But he got beat down in one single turn, so there wasn't a chance of that.
See, and that's exactly what I found, is that I love Darius. He's one of my first Signar casters, but I found exactly the same thing, that I never get to pop his feet on the Stormwall because they just kill it. So what I tried running instead was Striker 1, because then all of a sudden, instead of trying to fix it after, I would just go and say +5 armor, and then they can't take it out, right? So it's kind of like
Storm Arcane Shield on top of that too.
Oh yeah, armor 28 is it? Or no, it's 27. So it's just ridiculous, you know. Good luck trying to kill that.
Yeah, because I went up against a Prime Striker Stormwall list before,
So Kevin D. Leon is writing, "This is so jank." I don't know if he wants us talking more jank, but we'll get there. Let's talk about what we did this week. For my part, the last week here, I actually couldn't make it to a steamroller that we had this last week, but I did get to a fun one that my buddy was putting on. This one here was kind of interesting because you got to bring 3 25-point lists, so all these little tiny things, and then the idea was that for the last game, you combine them all to one big 75. But in the end, a lot of people dropped, so it was only 4 people for the last game. So we just did like a team game, so it was pick 2 of your lists, and it was kind of like 100 points versus 100 points at that point, but lots and lots of fun. Forgot my camera, though. Felt like an idiot because it's such a fun little event, and then I forgot my camera for battle reports. But I did my best to try and do an audio thing. I don't know if people like that. But the other thing I've been thinking a lot about this week, and maybe that's something we could talk about later, is just a whole bunch of different builds for mercenaries. Because it seems like the mercenary bug has kind of bit me, and I'm trying to find ways to make it to that next level. So I was actually very close. I was on Discount Games, and I had it all set up for 3 Earthbreakers. And I was like, no, don't do it. So almost was that guy for a while, but decided against it. So otherwise, that's my thing. As you can see, things are starting to come together here. But yeah, I haven't really done any painting. I'm just now putting together some Crow's Cutthroats. I've been sitting here for about a year, maybe longer, maybe 2 years. But so do we want to get into that janky list of yours?
Yeah, let's see here. We just bust out the old... Okay.
And while I was pulling this out, I see we have a good number of viewers. If you guys have any questions you want us to talk about after, just post them on, and we'll get to them after we're done this.
Now, how many viewers we got?
We were up to 5 for a while there.
All right.
It's all right.
So for the 5 of you here, I actually like to run Constance Blaze as a mercenary more than I like to run her as a Signar caster, because mercenaries have lots of options when it comes to just expendable throwaway infantry that can fuel her feet turn. So anyhow, I've talked about this battle group, I think on the first episode, where it's basically you take Constance Blaze, you take Gallant, you take Rocinante, and you take the Vanguard. So Gallant has Shield Guard, Rocinante has Defensive Strike, and then the Vanguard has another Shield Guard. You set that up right, all the different assassination vectors, you've got a Jack that can interfere with it.
Yep.
So we got that. Then, of course, we got the dynamic duo. We got Tarandila Rovisi and Rucker Shaw. I love running them together. Rucker Shaw has flank with her, so he's good to be around to protect her when things get on top of her. Rucker Shaw is marshaling a... Huh?
You have one of the Jacks on him?
I was just about to get to that.
Sorry.
I was about to say, Wrecker Shaw is marshaling a Buccaneer.
Nice.
Okay. 3-point wonder there. It's got reach, so basically with Wrecker Shaw, he's doing two things: either boosting a knockdown attack roll, or just running up on things and pointing at them. And Wrecker Shaw charges in and gets the flanking bonus there, which he gets both with her and Terran. And then Terran's there to make things go see-through, such as with the enemy brings like a battle engine or a colossal that gets in the way. She makes it see-through, so stuff can shoot through it. We got Stannis Brocker there to support some things that are coming, and that's, of course, 2 full units of Steelhead Halberdiers that I don't own. But, hey, it's something I would run.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for a late-game threat, kind of hanging back would be some Precursor Knights with the unit attachment ready to use that Immortal's name and charge in when they need to. But fighting up front would be the Steelhead Halberdiers.
And there's 2 units of them, you said, right?
Right. Plenty of things to fuel her feet because they're cheap. They're a 4/6 unit. The whole idea is they get up there with a melee threat, and then when Constance Blaze pops her feet, as they die in her control area, she's getting soul tokens. So that was a thought there.
Anything else on the list, or is that it?
That's it.
There's actually a lot of Jacks in there, and I've actually never really thought of Constance in the mercenary side. Like you say, there's a lot more cheap guys to throw out there. It always seems like if you're adding to the armor when it's always already so low, it's like, is it really doing anything? But having Rocinante with her, that's actually pretty interesting because not only is her armor really high, but then you got that higher defense as well. So it's like, I can see that. And that's what, 3 shield guards you have there? Was it how many?
Well, there's the shield guard coming from Gallant, the shield guard coming from the Vanguard. Rocinante's got that defensive strike, so he gets to do, and he's got guard dog. So, someone charges in. 1, he's hitting them, and 2, with guard dog, it's buffing their defense.
Yeah, so that can work. So do you normally use Constance as like an assassination character? This is like run up as fast as you can, and that's what you're using the feet for, is loading her up to go for herself for the kill?
Well, loading her up to fuel the transference spell. Because I use her to run infantry swarm. She's my dude swarm caster. She's my dude swarm caster for both Signar and mercenaries.
Oh, okay.
My mercenaries tend to be more dude swarm than my Signar. Signar tend to go for a combined armed list. But for when I need to run a dude swarm, then I gotta have Constance on the table.
All right. Well, so there you go. You guys can vote down below whether you think it was Jank or Junk. I think, if nothing else, that Rocinante part's really interesting. Like I said, I've always just thought of her as a Signar caster, but with Rocinante, I could definitely see that. We have a couple of other questions here. One here from David Williams saying, jank to the jank, jankety jank, jank to the face. A lot of people just, I think, like the idea of the different crazy lists we put on here. A lot of the other ones will be giving you your Haley 2 super list, but, we got some more fun on here. Kevin comes back on and says, speaking of mercenaries, I had a lovely little dwarf force. I wish they made enough to make a few 50-point builds. Now that they have the Earthbreaker, it's a lot easier. Pre-Earthbreaker, it was really like, man, what can you really do with Seer Forge? It's not exactly the same. But soon they're going to be getting a new battle engine, right? So that's going to add even more.
That battle engine looks pretty awesome too. I can always tell people, because I'll get people that'll cross over from Warhammer Fantasy and a Warmachine, and they're like big dwarf players. Like I knew a guy, he played dwarves in Warhammer Fantasy. Every time he plays D&D, he's playing a dwarf. He got into Warmachine for a while, like, hey, I want a dwarf army. But it just wasn't enough dwarf stuff. And he got into it back in Mark 1. And the only options was Gorton Grunback and then later Madhammer. And he had them both, and he had the high shield. He got the Forge Guard when they first came out. But he just didn't stick with it because he always watched us get new stuff. And then he's just waiting for new Rulic stuff. And it's just like, well, they're not releasing new dwarves, they're not releasing new ogres, and he actually gave up. Mark II came around, they started coming out with more of that stuff, but not quick enough for him.
Yeah, because I mean, they got 3 casters now. They got a Colossal, soon a Battle Engine.
Yeah.
You know, they have a good number of regular jacks. I feel they need like a new shooty unit, right? Like the high shields, they don't really do it. They need something more like a long gunner unit or something like that. That I think that will really help them a lot get to that next step. But more models is always good, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking, definitely, there's people. You got characters in the fluff that just invent new weapons. In the Rulic fluff, they just invent new weapons and put them on the battlefield. So there are plenty of ways for them to set up why they would have some good. I mean, Archibus John's weapon. I mean, putting that on, taking that weapon itself that Archibus John carries around and making that into a weapons crew weapon. Or putting that on a jack, there's all kinds of stuff they could do with that.
It would be interesting if they had like either maybe it could be like a battle engine or maybe it could be a solo, but something where basically it had a star action where it was basically like a forge and it would make weapons for other units. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna do my star action, and all of a sudden these forge guard have guns now. Okay, I'm gonna do the star action, just for like a turn, and then all of a sudden like these guys have whatever weapons. That'd be a neat way of making that little dwarf, forgery thing into it. But
man, and the way the game balances out, they'd probably be like, okay, this unit within its command range gets this buff to its attacks, like gets range, gets power.
Yeah, I could see that. Make it a battle engine. So I mean, it can't be too cheap if it's really super buffing. But yeah, why not? Actually, the caster that was really pushing me this week was Gordon. Gordon not running it so much with Seer Forge other than that craziness of all the Earthbreakers, but definitely Gordon with like my Dude Swarm. Because I was starting to think that one of the problems I have sometimes with my Dude Swarm is that if I'm not fast enough and they get to me, I just can't push them out. But if I'm playing Gordon, then all of a sudden I can get there, I can pop feet, I can push you back. If I'm trying to stop people from trying to trample in, I could be putting up a wall to be blocking that. But that focus 5 and that 10-inch control area is really making that thing a hard sell. Have you played much Gordon at all?
I haven't played. I've played against the dwarves. I haven't played with the dwarves. When I got into mercenaries, I didn't get anything Seer Forge. The only thing Seer Forge I have is I've got some Forge Guard that I bought off a buddy because he needed the money, so selling a bunch of stuff.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I bought a few things off him, like his Forge Guard and a few other things.
Yeah, and then I thought, like, with his 7 points, you might as well take a Basher, and then you can put the Strength of Granite onto it. If you take Thor, you can tune it up, and then all of a sudden, if they do trample a beast in somewhere, you just go and slam them out, and maybe just kill them too, right? So
I like the Basher. It's just a cool-looking model, and it plays well. And when I do get dwarves, I'm probably going to get a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just like, this is cool. It's one of the more unique, really goofy, cool jacks. I like unique, goofy stuff that would get me playing.
So Kevin says that you hit the nail right on the head, that he actually is a Warhammer Fantasy player that's a convert over.
Yeah, that's why I think they should expand on the Seer Forge Commission. And they could actually, if they play it right, because you have a minion, Lesser Warlock, who is a dwarf that controls a polar bear. Yeah. And I'm thinking if they do it right, they could expand Seer Forge into a faction and make it a crossover faction of both warcasters and warlocks. That would be cool.
That could be interesting, yeah. Chance Encounters here now and saying, what's the best way to make zones for scenarios, or what's the best place to buy them? We have been using cutout pieces of paper. Also, what's your favorite scenario from the 2015 Steamroller set?
Well, the 2015 Steamroller set is all scenarios we've seen before. They just kind of streamlined them a little bit. Like the I just went blank on one of the 3 flags. I don't know why I went
incursion.
that in incursion. Yeah, I ran that scenario so many times. I don't know why I would get. In fact, I played it on on Wednesday. The flags don't disappear anymore, so it's just like they just kind of tweak the scenarios a little bit. In terms of making control zones, I do have some experience with this here. Let me see if I got it here. It is. So, what I recommend. Hopefully, you can still hear me, right? Because I'm like reaching for stuff.
I can hear you. I can see you.
For your 12-inch control zones, you want to go to the hardware store and get yourself a cork mat. Go to like Home Depot, Lowe's. I don't know what you got up in Canada, but
Use
it's like
igloos. Just igloos. You know, you got to find the right type of Eskimo that's going to build something for you.
All right. Well, you get yourself a 12-inch diameter cork mat, but you don't just get a bunch of these things because, you know, that's kind of expensive. But what you do is you use these to trace your control zones. Then what you want to do is go to a fabric store, get yourself some fabric. Any fabric that you want. I personally go for the vinyl, the transparent vinyl. That way you can see the table underneath.
Nice.
So if you have yourself a fat mat or you got yourself a scenic table, it doesn't like take away from the scenery. So I have like clear plastic vinyl, and I just
also there's like a forest inside the zone. Then all of a sudden you can lay that on top of the forest or the hill.
Yep.
And it's a lot easier to see where something starts and ends, right?
Exactly. So it's like, you know, there's no guesswork there, or you don't have the situation where the forest overlaps the zone and then there's that imaginary line. I don't like imaginary lines, so I tend to go transparent. Also, if you go to a scrapbooking store and get scrapbooking paper is sold in 12-inch squares.
Yes.
So you know, you go in there and then you get those squares. You just chop them in half, and bam, you got 2 control zones right there. And they sell transparent plastic paper, right?
Oh.
It's quote paper, but it's actually sheets of plastic that you can get and slice those bad boys in half and turn them into control zones. Again, they're transparent; they don't take away from anything.
That's
and then
great.
you've got you've got transparent stuff that has patterns and stuff on it. I saw one that's it was at a craft store downtown. It was plastic, but it had like old like vintage newspaper print all on it. You can take that stuff too. That makes control zones right there, and it's cheap. So for a good amount of money, you could be a press ganger, and you could use this. You use this methods to do an entire tournament. So I've got enough transparent control zones for a 10-table tournament. That's 20 people playing. I mean, that's not convention level, but that's not convention preparedness. But usually when it's a con, you're working with other press gangers anyway. They're going to be bringing their own stuff.
Oh, yeah. You could pull together resources.
Yeah, so you're going to pull resources. A lot of guys like to get felt, but felt over time, it starts to stretch. So you end up with inaccurate control zones there. If you're going to use felt, I'd recommend getting some kitchen and bath caulk and spreading a layer over it to then kind of texturize it and then paint it up like a surface. Kind of paint it up like scenery, like you would a forest. And it's like, okay, you could use it as a forest or you could use it as a control zone kind of a deal. A lot of people, and this was something I'm thinking of doing too, just to have like cool looking control zones, but not have to pay the prices that you would pay for those kind of control zones from like a site like Muson Minis or Broken Egg. Not to put down what they do, because what they do is awesome. Yeah, because a friend of mine's got some Broken Egg control zones, and they're so awesome. I'm gonna get a set for my own personal use to throw into one of my army cases. But when you're trying to cut costs, they have a tournament organizer set where you get 8 sets for like $250. I'm thinking, I'm not gonna spend $250. I don't make that much money. But what I could do is just go buy a whole ton of kitchen and bath caulk from the hardware store and then get some felt from the fabric store.
Absolutely. Yeah, for my part here, you hit it right on the head where I love those sheets that come from the scrapbooking people. My wife is into scrapbooking, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, because some of it's more expensive, some of it's cheaper, but as it is a foot by foot. First of all, one of the things we forgot to mention was that's your hardcore. If you ever want to do that foot by foot zone, you don't have to do anything. You buy these things in the package, and you're good to go. If you want them to be
change, it's a 12-inch circle now.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right, for the newer one.
Yeah, Domination is now Circle. For 2015, they changed it.
Oh, that's true, yeah. But if you ever want to make the rectangles, like you say, you just cut them in half. You're good to go. Your circles, you could get from those as well. For my part, most of mine I actually made from poster board, just so it'd be a little bit more firm. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I like to do too, like you said, you can also buy them, and I like to have at least one set, so you have that for like your top table, or if you're recording one type thing. You know, then it's nice to have at least one good set, but I wouldn't go out and spend your money to get good sets like that for everything. Because like you said, you're not really making lots of money off this, and it can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever made, other than press gang points, I've never made any money off of this. So at the,
I didn't get press gang points. I'm not even a press ganger.
Yeah.
I could be.
Yeah.
How about we take this to the next step then? Because clearly, if we just talked about how we make zones, well, maybe how about we make flags and objectives?
Well, what I did for my flags set is I went to advanced deployment. I ordered a bunch of 40mm bases, and then I put those down as the flags. And then I also got on Amazon, I ordered some clear plastic rods. Granted, the set I got were really thick clear plastic rods, but I need to do is find me a drill bit. And then I'm just going to drill holes in all those and set the rods in. And then I was going to get some packing tape to make the flag. So I would have these transparent flags on the table. Nice. I think that look really cool. I know people who've made them out of, they've got like the wooden 40mm ones from the craft store and then drilled like dowels into them and kind of did it that way. Objectives, I kind of did the same thing. I got their white. From advanced deployment, I got our white bases, and I ordered 20 of those because that puts 2 on each table. Because my thing is prepare for 10 tables.
Yeah.
And because generally, if you go over 10, when you get more than 20 players, chances are there's another press ganger there who's brought their own stuff just in case, or you'll get your own personal overlap stuff for other tables. But yeah, what it is, I went with just transparent white. You put those down. As basically like a piece of dry erase board right there on the table, so they can mark damage right on it and then erase it later.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. Some of the things I've done for my circles is, again, just like poster board, going and cutting them all out. They are light and they can move around, so they're not the best. They're cheap, but that is kind of a problem. Otherwise, I have a few nicer ones that I had made. Again, if it's top table, you can go with that. I've also done a thing where you just buy the extra large bases or medium-sized bases and then throw something on top of them just to be something that's a little bit extra and different, right? I know some people just buy the bases and then put nails through them, put a flag on it. There, you're done. You've probably seen I have a lot of crystals on my channel because you can buy them from Battlefield in the Box. It's just like a box full of a ton of crystals. Yeah. So, okay, you just make a ton of those. Those are hard
to find, though, now.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, I can't find them anymore. Because I was ready to buy some. And then I was like, wait. Because my plan was to get some and then get an advanced deployment base that kind of matched them. And then just use plastic glue to glue them on top. But it's like, I look for them and don't really see them.
Oh, I mean, a lot of hobby stores don't carry the terrain as well because it takes up a lot of room and doesn't make a lot of money. But I had 2 different stores I used to go to. I mean, I have really enough terrain now. But, man, now you have me worried because I was going to go get some more. And now I'm like, oh, what if they don't have any?
Yes, I went looking for some on – I actually went looking for some on Amazon because I was ordering stuff off of Amazon. But it's like the Battlefield and the box stuff. It's like Gale Force 9 doesn't keep their product stocked. It's like they'll make a wave of something, then once it sells out, it's gone.
Man, I got to get to one of those stores and try and buy those quick thing because I have that big tournament coming up with 50 players, and I was thinking, like, if I want to have incursion, that's like 150 flags. No. That'd be 75 flags I need to be running, which is quite a few to have.
Let's see, 50 tables.
Or 50 people, 25 tables times 3 is 75.
All right.
We got a couple other comments here on the side. Talon, I think I'm not sure how I say that one, Rhodes. What do you guys think about battle engines? I don't see them played all too often in person or on YouTube. What are your takes on the battle engines there, Tin Man?
I see the Protectorate battle engine in use a lot, and I see the... I don't really see the Scorn one in use that often. I see, and yeah, I'm kind of umming and on right now, but I got my Signar battle engine that I got back in 2011 that I'm still painting.
Storm Strider.
Yeah, the Storm Strider, of course. And it's mostly painted, but I haven't been motivated to put it on a tabletop. I mostly, when I see battle engines, I see the Protectorate one in my area.
Yeah, that one.
And sometimes I see the Kador one.
The Kador one, okay, yeah. The Menoth one I used to see all the time, then it kind of disappeared. The Signar one is actually really good. I actually got 2 of them for the tier, although I've never ran them or painted them. But, you know, getting 2 big, strong shots out of these and also Electroleap around, you know, that's pretty good for 9 points. So, I mean, they can be a little bit of a hassle because of how they have the huge base, and you know, normally you can't boost anything on them. Like for the Storm Striders, if you have a tier, so you start with the tokens, or if you get shot, sure, okay, then you start boosting. But otherwise, you know, I can understand people's frustration where it's not a jack, I can't give it focus. But could you actually temporal accelerate that with Epic Haley to get extra shots from them?
Yeah.
Nice. We had another longer one here saying from YM Mini Jersey, or YMI in Mini, I don't know. Either way, holy crap, I finally caught you live. I am a huge fan, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making the switch from Fantasy to Warmachine. I was on the edge myself. I was really, really fed up with Games Workshop, and when you made the switch, it literally helped me make the decision to finally switch as well, and haven't looked back. I love Warmachine with a passion, and have had so much more fun than ever than playing Fantasy. Thank you for everything you do. Very much appreciated. And don't let anyone bitch about armies not being painted or anything like that. The game is the important part. And yeah, Warmachine is freaking amazing. It's one of these things where we were just talking with some friends this last weekend where you get that, where a lot of people from Games Workshop, they're all like, oh yeah, Warmachine's stupid, big shoulder pads, stuff like this, but they've never tried it. And then everyone I know from Fantasy or 40K who has tried Warmachine has quit to play Warmachine. So that says something right there.
I started out as a 40K player, and I was really frustrated with the fact that I was a Necron player, and Necrons just did not have any tactical options, any tactical choices, anyway. So it was like it was just doing the same thing over and over again when I played with them. And then when I got into Warmachine, I realized I could change out one model, and suddenly my entire army runs different.
Yeah,
and that I always had options, because even your basic troops, they had tricks up their sleeves. They had something extra that they did, that they brought to the table, and I liked that. My friend Tom, that you've seen a lot of my battle reports, you saw a lot of my battle reports there, he liked it too. He just says that Warhammer 40K was a game where you moved 6 inches and fired your guns, and that was it. And I think a lot of people, they just kind of got set in their ways, because it used to be the only game at the game store was Warhammer. Now we're kind of in this wargaming renaissance. Warmachine's been going strong for over 10 years. The GW fanboys said the Warmachine wouldn't last, and well, it did. They said that Mark II wouldn't catch on. Mark II actually made the game popular. I mean, 40K is still light years ahead of us, but we're catching up. And I say this stuff all the time, and I'm just running blank here. But yeah, it's like, we're catching up. And I think if you watch the last battle report I posted, it was a battle report of me and Menoth John, and we met up at Kingdom Con on a Thursday when it first started. And we noticed that the Warhammer side of the convention hall wasn't even set up yet. So we kind of cracked wise about it. Like, look, all these people showing up to play Warhammer. But there was tons of people in open arena and tournaments going on constantly for Warmachine, but the 40K community just wasn't there. I mean, they had tournaments on Saturday and Sunday. Like Saturday and Sunday, they did some stuff on Friday, but for the most part, they weren't really set up. I thought about getting in a game of Unbound with someone in the Warhammer Fantasy section because no one was there, but they had these 6x4 tables all set up.
Sorry, just a quick thing here saying from Kevin saying that buying real crystals is probably cheaper, but yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean, nothing against 40K and fantasy. I mean, they're still really fun games. I'm not going to be here saying like, oh, your game's stupid. Come play Warmachine.
Yeah, of course.
But you know, it's funny because I'll talk to somebody from 40K. And they'll be like, man, I wish the rules were more clear and not really contradicting itself. And I wish it was more balanced. And I wish there was more of a, of a scenario that mattered. And they'll be like, well, have you looked at Warmachine? Because it seems to have everything you want. Oh, no, Warmachine's stupid. Have you ever played? No, of course not. Warmachine's stupid. It's like, come on.
I ran a demo for a guy once, and a GW fanboy decided to hang out just next to us while we were demoing, and then constantly crack wise and try to commentate on things while I was running this demo, trying to say things were broken and unbalanced when he had no idea what he was even looking at. And he was doing this because it was a 40K player that I was doing the demo for. And he didn't want to lose somebody.
Yeah.
Even though it's like with as many armies as that guy had, he wouldn't have lost. He'd just been picking up something new. Which is what sometimes I have to tell people. Say, well, it isn't about losing something. It's about trying something new, maybe picking something up. If you get burnt out on this, you have a little side game. You don't have to go in as deep as me. People,
I mean, a big thing here too is I find that, because there's a lot more that's interactions or mini interactions in the game, it's you can't go on to the internet, get the best list and expect just to walk on and win, right? It's just not like that. You have to kind of get into it, learn how the game works, and you're going to lose, the majority of your first games, but that's just the way it is until you develop your own style and start learning all the counters and what all the feats are.
You definitely got to develop your own style. Definitely don't want to be a net decker. You don't want to have faction ADD either. Those people, because there was like one guy who was getting into the game and he was frustrated about never being able to win, but he was constantly buying new armies. I said, well, what are you doing? You're constantly buying new armies. One of the best players I know personally, when he got into the game, his first caster was Chromac for Circle, and all he ever played with for like 10 months was Chromac.
Oh.
He didn't play with anyone else or any other factions. Then he got Epic Balder. Started playing with nothing but Epic Balder. This dude's good. He is good with his Circle because he didn't jump around, so he made sure he knew this stuff like the back of his hand. Now the rules associated with those with the models he was using like the back of his hand before he'd move on to get something new. The guy had discipline.
Yeah, that's hard to do. You played 10 games, and especially in a game like this where switching that one caster will completely change your game style. But if you have that discipline, like you said, to stick with that caster, like that's how you learn. But so I guess that kind of went off on a rant there. But while we wait for some more questions to go up, one of the things that we talked about was an idea where I talk about one of my favorite casters, and then you suggest a new way I could start playing him.
All right.
So how much background do you have with Magnus 2?
Here's the thing. I have Magnus the Traitor. I haven't finished painting them yet.
All right.
I got the Magnus the Traitor stuff this particular way. The Magnus box was just given to me one day. And the dude had his Mangler painted already. So he had a Mangler base coated. So I just, I threw some shading over it and then just called it done because there were some brittle parts on there and I didn't want to strip it and risk breaking anything.
Okay.
So so my Mangler doesn't even fit my color scheme there. I painted the Talon and the Renegade at the same time. So I have a fully painted Renegade, but when I just need to get around to painting Magnus, who I had a hard time stripping. I had to strip him twice because there was just a bunch of chunky primer on it.
Oh, okay.
It's like literally. I talked to dude told the dude about Magnus's backstory and what inspired the character and what inspired his look. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but Magnus was inspired by Bruce Campbell's by Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Sculpted to look like Bruce Campbell originally, and so they tweaked the likeness off just enough so they don't get sued by Bruce Campbell. So I told him the whole story. I said, yeah. He's actually inspired. His look is inspired by Bruce Campbell. He's got a boomstick. One of his jacks has got a chainsaw for an arm. It's all one. It's all this gag. It's all these references.
There's a robot arm. Yeah.
Robot arm, and it's like literally if you play against Crix, you're playing Army of Dark. You're playing Army of Darkness right there. Is what I was telling him. But instead of a Buick, he's got his Mangler. Remember, I modified the Buick. Well, instead of the modified Buick, he's got his Mangler. The Buick was doing Circular Strike. Well, back then there was a rule called Circular Strike.
Okay.
He's doing Circular Strike. And he said he thought that was the coolest thing in the world, so he bought the battle box. Well, he used really cheap spray paint that wasn't primer to prime them. Like, the stuff that goes on real shiny.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and then he used like tester's paint to paint the jacks. It was a good color scheme, just with bad paint. So then it got passed on. And then that stuff got passed on in trade to another friend of mine who then decided to one day, okay, I'm not going to develop a mercenary army. I'm going to give this to you. So he gave me his Magnus the Traitor. He gave me his a Nomad. And, of course, the other content from the old Magnus the Traitor box, which is no longer being produced.
Okay. So, getting back to what I was asking there, do you think you could make a list for Magnus 2?
I'm just not that familiar with Magnus 2. I mean, I can review his rules real quick.
Well, this is the thing, is that he was one of my favorite casters, again, because I knew about the whole Campbell thing, and the two ways I've ran him so far really has really just been the tier, because I think it's hilarious that I get to run him with Idrians and also Long Gunners. So I'd run him with kind of like the tier 4, more of an infantry thing going with the Idrians, the Long Gunners. I'd have the Cutthroats in there, 2 Manglers, and a Renegade. So that's the first way I really started playing him. And then once the Galleon came out, I actually started running him kind of as a Jack caster, because I love the way where he had mobility and he could lock things down, so the Galleon could pull something in, kill that heavy, then I pop feet, then they can't move, so I pull in something else, kill that heavy. But the main things he has going for him is, of course, his feet is you pop it, and then enemy models, you pick 2 board edges and they can't go towards them. So normally you pick the far one and the close one, so they're basically playing foosball. It can only go side to side. That's a great scenario thing if you can lock him out of scenario. It's also great for setting up your attacks. He has a cool abilities himself, where his sword has armor pierce, so you can go for that. He also has his knockdown robot arm, so that's cool. We already talked about how he has mobility on his card. He has obliterate, which you never really do. I believe he also has blur on his card. No, it's bullet dodger. Blur is on the first one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at the card, he's also got calamity.
Yeah,
it's pretty good if you get it's good if you can get it off. Then he's got convection, so it destroys an enemy model. Then you have to allocate a point of focus to it.
So knowing this, if you were just to like randomly now be like, I'm going to make a Magnus 2 list, what direction do you think you would take Magnus 2? Would you go more jacks, more infantry?
I would definitely have a Galleon in there to try to run up on an objective and hold the position. Definitely got to go with more than 1 Renegade, because arc nodes are going to be handy for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that Obliterator cannon is going to be good for knocking things down. He's got knockdown abilities, so I would have a freebooter hanging out next to him, because a freebooter gets bonuses against knockdown models, and if Magnus is in base contact with freebooter, Magnus doesn't get knocked down himself. So that's always a good thing to have going on, because Magnus can just be like, knock it down, and then freebooter finishes off, especially if someone runs up something big on him.
I think it actually work where you would take like, I don't know, like you're saying, a galleon, 2 renegades, and then all the other points go into freebooters. And so basically you have the renegades shoot, knock things down, cast mobility, and then just all the freebooters take that damage to be faster as well, and just like do. Think that works at all? Is that too crazy?
That's definitely something I would run, but in addition to that, I'd throw in some Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. I'm always a supporter of Buccaneers.
Because a couple of Buccaneers for more knockdown. Because the Renegades, they only get to fire those cannons once.
But they're really good cannons.
Oh, yeah. I've seen games get one with them.
Oh, yeah. I always forget they also have arcing fire. So, I mean, if you think you're safe back there with your caster behind like 2 lines of guys, nope. Just go and bomb them out.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. What would you say is your favorite caster as far as like, you know, if you were just going to play a game for fun, what's your favorite caster?
Well, I've always leaned towards Alistair Kane because that's the caster that got me into the game, just because he reminded me of Gene Starwind from Outlaw Star, and Outlaw Star is an old favorite anime of mine. Yeah. So I was almost a Crix player because when I get into war games, I tend to play bad guy factions. So I played I tend to play bad guy factions, but I read Signar, and I read Alistair Kane's Fluff, and I was like, well, this guy's too cool. This guy is basically Gene Starwind from Outlaw Star, and I like that.
So is it P Kane or E Kane is your favorite?
In Mark II, I play E Kane more. I guess I like the way he's balanced more, because he can take care of himself in close combat better than P Kane could. P Kane can run away from close combat, but it's like someone runs up and engages E Kane shoots him in the face. Oh, yeah.
All right, well, here's an interesting list I was thinking about, or actually, no, this one I've actually played quite a bit, is how about this? Now you have 1 Stormwall. So if you were to run him, you basically take your Epic Haley double Stormwall list with 2 Stormwalls and your Squire, and then you got the Black 13th and Gun Mage with UA. You just take out Epic Haley and you put in Epic Kane. And what you have then is he has these 2 Stormwalls he can hide behind. And what I really found for this is that normally when I'm going with Epic Kane, I need to go up, shoot, and then gate crash away. Yeah. But with this one, you basically move with 1 Stormwall, shoot, then Kane moves over to that Stormwall. He does all of his shooting, spending all of his focus, and then the second Stormwall just goes and closes the door and does his thing. So what do you think about that list? Is that one you think you could get into?
Yeah, I'm always a fan of hiding Kane behind stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, boy. So I was gluing something together, and I was going, this isn't working. All right, so anyhow, yeah, I'm always a fan of hiding Kane behind stuff because you leave him out in the open, even though he has high armor or even he has high defense, stuff still gets to him.
Yeah, well, I mean, that the defense 17, if he ever gets knocked down or even is clipped with like blast damage, right? Armor 13 is just not going to keep you alive.
Yeah.
If you get on fire, oh boy. In that team game I was telling you about, I got my Epic Kane lit on fire. Luckily, it went out. Otherwise, that's just devastating. For a little bit change of pace, Rhodes came back on and said, you guys talked about objectives. What is your favorite objective?
I like Arcane Wonder so far. In fact, I've got my own custom Arcane Wonder that I'm working on. I just saw him earlier. Let's see if he's still around. Here he is behind the water bottle here. I got a pack of those Cthulhus, and I'm going to make a Cthulhu statue.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm either going to just do him up as a gray statue and then put like ruby eyes in him, kind of, or I'm going to do him up as a gold statue. Because some of the H.P. Lovecraft stories, when I find this stuff, it's always made out of. I'm not going to use this descriptor because the vernacular's changed, so it has a different meaning today.
Isn't that the bottle you showed me before, and I said he was pooping?
I believe so. Yeah. If you need to give him a newspaper to read, or I think he's my kind of looking around to make sure no one sees him. But
Probably, yeah. You should put
yeah,
some bushes around him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Actually, I was gonna have some vegetation on him, like he's he's just been found in a forest clearing. But this is my arcane wonder.
Okay, yeah.
That I'm gonna have.
When they first put out that there were going to be these different type of objectives you could use and what they were, I really thought Arcane Wonder was going to be like, yeah, you take that all the time. It's amazing. And my brother ironically said that the one that he liked was Effigy of Valor. And I was like, no, Effigy of Valor is stupid. Why did you ever take that? And now by far, my favorite one is Effigy of Valor because of how it makes your guys fearless and it gives you cover. And it's just, that Arcane Wonder is really nice, but a lot of times I find that I can't really get to it when I want to use it for those spells. So maybe I just need to play it better. But yeah, for me, the vast majority of the time, I just take Effigy of Valor. Now, again, I take a lot of troops, and keeping those troops fearless is a big deal. Whereas I assume, you probably take a more regular balanced army, and then you don't need to worry about that fearless as much.
A lot of times it depends on the scenario and the list you're fielding, but the buffing the spell casting is always nice. Fearless is always nice too, especially since I have an army that ended up losing a whole bunch of fearless models when Mark II hit, because all the storm models, with the exception of the Stormsmiths, were fearless. Storm Guard, Storm Blades, Storm Lances, they were all fearless in Mark I. Mark II, they took their fearless away.
Mm.
So it's like, all right, if I got like a Storm Swarm, Effigy of Valor helps.
I find that in this game, I get a lot more upset when I fail command. Back when I played Warhammer Fantasy, my guys were leadership like 4 and 5. So yeah, if they fail, it's like, yeah, of course they do. They're cowards. But now when I have my, command 8 and 9 guys fail their command test, it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. And there's such a huge deal in the game. Whenever you fail that, it's devastating. Absolutely devastating. Mm-hmm. So we're getting near the end of the show here. Do you have any recommendations for this week there, Tin Man?
I didn't really put much thought to it this week. I was going to say maybe for some old school battle reports, people could check out Listen While You Play and Martha and the Machines. Because you gotta, I got to shout out to my buddies here. So if you have never watched Listen While You Play or Martha and the Machines, these are both guys that we're doing who go back a long ways with the battle reports. And then there's also, if you like the high production value battle reports, there is a guy on YouTube who just doesn't get the props I feel he deserves to get, and that's the Bleeped Up Productions and his Warmachine battle reports. Definitely want to check his stuff out because he does high production value battle reports in videos. He just doesn't get the props that he deserves.
Yeah, his stuff is really nice. Yeah. A couple other comments coming up, but I think I'm just going to answer one of them quick. Rhodes asking, with so many models, have you ever considered the armory with asset protection? And no, because someone can destroy my objective all they want. I usually swarm, so I'm not going to lose in scenario. Mine, we were talking about before we got on camera, talking about different channels have closed over the years and stuff like that. And I guess kind of going with the theme, one of the ones that I used to love and I used to watch all the time was Bits and Pieces. Did you ever watch that one?
They were actually on Dice Rage for a while. Those guys were just cranking out videos like every week. They're in the Netherlands. Niek Van Slagmat knows them, and pretty much what happened with them is they just got burnt out on Warmachine. They were just playing so much of it that they just got burnt out on it and just stopped playing. And that's what happened to those videos. If you use Bits and Pieces, right? They're the ones that they did recap style battle reports, but then in between each round they'd have the sped up footage.
Yeah, and they had the normally there are train tracks going through. That's one of the things was usually on their reports. That's nowhere else. But yeah, those are always great ones. It's kind of sad to see some of these ones that disappear, but they're still on YouTube for you to see. Just Don't expect any new ones.
Southern Signar's another good over old school bat reps. He did the photo style bat reps, but he did them really well. And on another one is Iron Kingdoms at War. His stuff is also, his battle reports were really well. And Iron Kingdoms at War was about 5 years ago. I tried to get them on Dice Rage when we first started, but he was someone that would make battle reports for a while, then life would get in the way, then we wouldn't see him for a year. Then we'd see battle reports again, and then life would get in the way, and we wouldn't see him for a while. His stuff was good too. Another old school one too was the Player's Handbook. Those guys were going on strong, and then just out of nowhere, just up and stopped. And I talked to Rich about it, like, "Hey, you gonna make more videos?" And he always said that he was gonna make more videos, but then he never got around to posting.
Yeah.
And
reminds me of another guy's channel. He called himself like Goldman or something. I don't know, but he says he's gonna make more videos at some point.
Yeah, it's just, I don't really have a lot of the free time that I used to have, and opportunities to record without other sounds getting into my fancy microphone here. I still have a Minoth John battle report that I have completely scripted here. I just got to do the narration work, but I just need the right moment to do it, and then get that up. And then I've got another one where I'm basically set up a camera on a tripod that just record the game, and I'm going to do the whole speed the footage up and just gab about it.
Oh, nice.
See if that's easier. And I don't have the gift of gab. I can't just go and talk some more. Just keep talking.
I'm so happy.
Like and entering my vocabulary.
I'm so happy that I do this show now and not the paint-episodes, because trying to talk straight for an hour was pretty intense. There's a lot of times like, random topic. Let's try and keep this going. So, yeah. So either way, guys, thanks for watching. Next time I will be having the video up earlier so that we can get more of the questions. Again, try and check in that Google Plus page there, the Warmachine Youtubers, so you can find all these YouTubers and their videos, and hopefully we can start getting more interactions on. But otherwise, thanks for watching from me and from Tin Man. This is where you say bye.
Oh, boobs.
Okay, bye.
Bye.